Alright, hey guys and welcome back to Remember11. My voice is a little bad, but I should be able to do this. I just need to have some coffee. And I will be fine soon enough. I'm hoping I can beat this today because I really want to find out what's going on. Me changed. The smells that enter my nostrils, the feeling of the air touching my skin, the temperature, everything had changed. I was in a bed in the shelter cabin. I was lying down staring at the ceiling. I transferred into Fuyukawa's body. Damn, what awful timing. Was Cocoro alright? She transferred right in front of a crazed killer. And just as I'd been about to fall too. I cursed my own worthlessness. I'm sorry. Please be safe. Don't let him get you, don't die, please survive. I prayed fervently, closing my eyes. So I did the only thing I could. I waited for the time I could return to Sphere. I was desperate. If Cocoro dies because of me, just the thought made me feel sick to the heart. I took off her wristwatch and checked the time. 6:45. In 33 minutes, I can go back. And when I do, I can save her. Assuming that she's even still alive. It was the longest 33 minutes I'd ever experienced. I was unable to contain myself. I had to do something. That's right. It dawned on me. I reached into my pocket. I took out the voice recorder. What I can do for her now is leave a message. I have to explain what's going on so she'll understand everything when she returns. I pushed the record button. Cocoro, at this very moment I'm being chased through Sphere. I ended up jumping here right after I was attacked. I'm begging you, please make it out safely. Damn it, not being able to do anything is irritating. If your personality ended up dying because of me, I don't know how I would ever be able to apologize to you. I don't even mind if I lose an arm. So please be safe. I'd spoken with a tone so desperate it almost sounded like I was throwing up blood. I hit the stop button and jammed the voice recorder back into my pocket. I closed my eyes, stood still, and waited for the moment to arrive. I think that Yomogi and Yuni tried to talk to me as I waited, but I couldn't even hear them. I'm begging you, please be alright. Cocoro. That was all I could think about. This is when Yomogi sees the helicopter, right? Finally, 33 minutes passed. Oh, okay. Fatal. This is when he kills the guy, I think. The scenery shifted before my eyes. I had transferred to Sphere. I was still in the basement, storeroom. I was frozen in place right in the middle of it. My body was still safe. Cocoro had somehow made it through the danger. I didn't feel any pain in particular. I felt something cold for some reason, but I didn't seem to be injured anywhere. Thank you. No words could possibly express just how grateful I am to you. I couldn't even imagine how I could begin to thank her for this. At any rate, I'm so glad it's over. The tension I felt disappeared in an instant. Eventually my focus shifted from my inner musclings to my current surroundings. I gave my body a once-over. Strange. Something strange. What is it? That's right, my left hand. My left hand was gripping some foreign object. Something cold and hard. I slowly shifted my gaze. Ooh. I was grasping a knife. It was the switchblade Enomoto pulled out earlier. I was covered in blood. I stared upsettingly at the knife. What does it mean? Time 6. I somehow managed to still my shaking hands and took stock of my surroundings. Enomoto was lying face down on the floor. He wasn't moving. His head was turned to the side, his eyes were wide open, and his face bore a look of anguish. A pool of blood was steadily growing beneath him. There was no doubt that he was dead. He's dead. No, he's been murdered. By whom? Isn't that obvious? Personality that was in my body while I was at Mount Hakura, Cocoro. Wait, no, I didn't do that though, did I? Cocoro, but Enomoto was about to kill Cocoro as well. It was a perfectly legitimate act of self-defense. Unavoidable. That's right, she had no other choice. She's innocent. She's not at fault here. That's what I wanted to believe. I returned my eyes to Enomoto's corpse. Looking closely, I saw countless numbers of stab wounds punched through it, which meant the knife had been thrust into him over and over again. Hey, even in self-defense, there was no need to go this far. From those stab wounds, I sensed not an attempt to evade danger, but a clear intent to kill. But why? Is the woman known as Cocoro really this kind of person? I didn't know. Cocoro, my partner, at that moment I felt a little scared of her. And just as that thought entered my mind, something crossed in front of me. Huh? I was too slow in noticing it. Whoever had just entered had suddenly grabbed the knife out of my left hand. Who's there? Looked frantically around. It was Satoru. Her entire body was covered in blood. Her arms, clothes, and face were all dyed a deep red. Had Satoru been standing right next to Enomoto when it happened? Enomoto had bled, after all. A large quantity of blood had probably gushed out of him when he was stabbed. In other words, he'd been showered with Enomoto's blood. That's probably how it was. Satoru, who'd snatched the knife away from me, held it in both hands and was playing with it like a favorite toy. Hey! A neary smile formed on Satoru's lips. The remnants of Enomoto's blood was beginning to drip from the knife and onto her hands. Stop it, that's dangerous, give it back! Satoru wouldn't listen to me. She lifted the knife high on the outstretched hands as though offering an object of worship. The blood. Blood was dripping, staining the concrete floor, marking it with crimson circles. Her actions were extremely unsettling. Hey! Satoru slowly lowered his knife. What is it? Hey, Satoru, which do you prefer? She looked at me with suspicion in her eyes. They were ever so slightly moist, wet and shimmering. Chills thrummed in my spine. Which one? What do you mean? I mean, to stab or be stabbed? Which do you prefer? I definitely... Satoru's voice faded. Oh. That proves it, then. So, two things. One, when someone asks that kind of question, when anyone asks the question, sorry, what was that? I didn't get to read that. Come on, stop doing that. I can't press... Oh, there it is. Why wasn't it working on my keyboard then? What? It's backspace that does it, right? That's weird. It's very weird, okay. But when someone asks that kind of question, they always expect an answer, right? So if you don't answer, you're probably gonna go like, why aren't you answering? So the fact that Hitori doesn't ask Cocoro, it must mean Cocoro's transferring it every time there's a transfer too. So that means two people are transferring, not just one. But who? That's the question. I think it could be the girl in the snow, because she's still alive, but I don't know. For the time being, both Cocoro and I were safe. Phenomenon. Tori's voice faded out. Transfer the phenomenon that had pretty much been expected to happen. Well, there's a dead man there too, Enomoto Naya. He'd been killed by Cocoro's consciousness, and in reality it was my body that had hacked him like that. The one holding the knife was me. I'm glad I was saved, but the outcome was rather horrible. It left a bad taste in my mouth. Rather, I saw his body. I ended up in the shelter cabin. I wasn't terribly unsettled, but I couldn't just shift my mood right away after I arrived. Lynn was in front of the stove. She was wrapped up in blankets, shivering. In the corner of the cabin, I saw Yomogi sitting atop a bundle of firewood. There was a lot of less of it now. Where was Yuni? I glanced around the room looking for him. Yuni was standing beside me. He was looking up at me with a serious face. It seems as though the time has come, huh? And with that he left the cabin. No one tried to stop him. The time has come? Enomoto's anguish face had been burned into my mind. I still felt the slippery sensation of blood on my palms. I couldn't shake it off. But I was anxious about Yuni. After hesitation for a while, I decided to follow him. After again making sure my palms were clean, I put my hands to the door and quietly opened it. It was clear outside. The whole sky was hung with bright stars. Present time, 8:09. The moon hadn't risen yet. Satoru, you're Satoru, right? Just beside the entrance, Yuni descended down the path in front of me and stood there. I nodded silently before joining him. I never did answer that question from last night, did I? That's right. Hearing Yuni pick up that topic himself was a little perplexing. He stared up at the twinkling stars with an expression of ultimate understanding in his face. Just as you said, I came from the year 2012. Ooh! Oh, you're not surprised? Yeah, I was kind of expecting it after all. Then would you be surprised if I said this? I haven't transferred even once. Ooh, yeah, just as I thought. No, it'd be better to say we. Me and the other me at Sphere. Unlike Satoru and Cocoro, we haven't been transferring over and over again. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think I mentioned this at the end of the last episode, but I think after the plane crash, that's when the first transfer happened. And so the whole world around them just transferred to the ocean area. Except for Cocoro, obviously, because Cocoro's consciousness stayed in the 2011, so Satoru's body at that time. I'm not going to go into specifics. But Yuni then just simply walked outside of the bubble into the ocean area. The transfer ended, and so when he walked back, he was at Sphere, and then sometime later on, he must go back. And that's why he's at the cabin, but he's from 2012. He hasn't transferred, he's teleported via the circle. I looked at yeah. But you've at least switched once, haven't you? No, I've never switched. Not even once. The current consciousness is from year 2012. Current body, too, is from 1 year in the future. Hey, wait a minute. Then why is the future you here? Satoru. Huh? Try touching the snow. The snow? Yeah. As he told me, I bent over and touched the surface of the snow. Smooth, powdery flakes. As if it had fallen only moments ago. Right up until now, it was snowing around the shelter. Whole lot of it a snowstorm. Yeah, it's because the air around it is different because it's transferred. Now that you mention it, I finally remembered something. Emerito's words. It's not a personality exchange that you two are undergoing. Your personalities aren't what's being transferred. What's really being transferred is space. Space itself is being transferred. To be specific, it's space that leaves through time and is transferred, in other words. It's a space-time transfer. Oh, I love this game so much. I'm sorry. I fanboy over the science fiction and the fantasy kind of mess-overs. Like, you can put all the sci-fi machine you want into a movie, I will not like it. You put mindfucky business that involves sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like that, and I will be all over it. Wait, please wait, let me get this all straight in my head. Tapping at the temples, I walked around in circles in the snow. Eventually I came to a halt and spoke. See, that's right. This is Alasagi Island. If you climb the small hill, there will be an ocean before you. The moon isn't up yet. It should look more like a last quarter moon, now waning gibbous moon, but if what Emerito said is true, then my consciousness remains at Alasagi Island unmoving. What's transferring is space itself, which means that only this 110-meter circle around us, with the shelter cabin at its core, was at Mount Cocoro. Oh, I get it. It's not a 100-meter radius. It's if you were to walk around the wall of Sphere, it'd be 110 meters. But the radius isn't 110 meters. It's how long the wall is. Okay, that makes sense now. That's a little annoying because I thought it was 100 meters, and I'm like, oh, that's a contradiction. It's 600 meters. But no, it's how long the wall is. I'm an idiot. That's why soft powdery snow like this is here. That's right. But that doesn't have anything to do with my question, right? That's why I asked you. Why is the future you even though you've never transferred? Don't you know? I'm asking you because I don't know. I see. The truth is those two things have everything to do with each other. And with that he started explaining. In summary, it was like this. Oh, finally! Think about it, the solution is extremely simple. First of all, until now, I thought that the very first transfer occurred on January 11th between 8 PM and 9 PM. But it seems like that wasn't actually the case. Before that, just once, one complete cycle of the space-time transfer occurred. It was just a little after 5 PM on the evening. At that time, there wasn't anyone inside the Mount Cocoro shelter cabin. Yomogi Lin and Cocoro hadn't reached it yet, and then a space-time transfer occurred. The Sphere of 2012 had jumped back to the Mount Cocoro 1 year ago and vice versa. At that time, the Yuni of 2012 was on the coast of Alasagi Island. He knew that the transfer was going to happen beforehand. was going to have beforehand entered the shelter cabin alone and was transported. Okay, in the meantime, what was happening in Mount Cocoro 1 year ago? The crash of Flight 18 occurred at 4 PM. The Yuni of the year 2011 had been thrown out of the snowfield and was wandering alone in the storm, and shortly after 5 PM he'd wandered into the Mount Cocoro circle. What he found there was a sphere. There should have been a large wall around it, but the Mount Cocoro circle was surrounded by a slightly elevated hill. The summit of the hill and the top of the wall were about the same height. As a result, Yuni had tumbled down the wall. Through the whirling snow, he saw a white-walled structure in the distance. Marshalling his fleeting consciousness, he managed to reach the building and take shelter there, and then he entered the empty room near the kitchen. Time passed, and then a little after 5, Sphere returned to Arasagi Island with the Yuni of 2011 still inside. And at the same time, inside the shelter cabin, the Yuni of 2012 was transported to the frozen Mount Cocoro. After that, nothing particularly strange happened. The 2 Yunis with their original consciousnesses still in their bodies had ridden across on the boat known as space. That's what he meant by never having transferred even once. Although more accurately, he had never separated with it from his consciousness even once. In truth, he had travelled back and forth with the space transfer between 2011 and 2012. Now then, there's still one important matter, the newspaper. Why did a newspaper from the future exist in the shelter cabin? Yuni had the answer to that as well. I brought it with me. When he'd entered the shelter cabin, the Yuni of the year 2012 brought on a newspaper printed on July 4th. Well, are you satisfied now? Yeah, to a certain extent. There's still some things I don't understand. Like what? Why do you know so much about Sphere? Oh, you haven't noticed? The me standing right now is the me that was discovered by the rescue team on January 17th. The me who had narrowly avoided being caught in the avalanche. I know that. And 1 year after that, you'll go to the coast of Arasagi Island. Then on January 11th, 2012, there will be another transfer just before 5 PM. And you'll be inside the shelter cabin when it jumps from Arasagi Island. Wait, what? Something's off. If things continue like this, the Yuni will be found by the rescue team on January 17th again. It will just keep going around in circles, and become an infinite loop. Should I give you a hint? I know everything that happened at Sphere. From the 11th to the 17th, I know everything that happened with those in those 7 days. In other words, the me in the future is the me of the past. What do you mean? Yuni only laughed softly and wouldn't answer. I wasn't sure where he'd got it, but he was holding a single feather in the palm of his hand. A soft, downy white feather. He's trying to save them, isn't he? That's what he's trying to do. He is purposely going back to the 2011 so he can always go back to 2012 and then go back again in this infinite loop. And if the same thing keeps on happening, as in if everyone keeps on dying and he keeps on surviving, then he will just keep on going back until everyone is saved, until he finds that one way to save them. That's what he's trying to do, I think. The soft downy white feather. The 5th day. Lethal. I woke up. It wasn't a slow, gentle awakening, but a sudden jerk as if I'd been shaken. I was curled up in a corner of the kitchen, laying flat on the ground. I didn't know what happened. My body felt boneless, like a rubber doll's, my limbs too leaden and senseless for even the smallest movement. A transfer? My body and consciousness had probably returned the moment I fell asleep in the cabin. Cocoro had woken up in Sphere within the past 33 minutes, and then what had happened? Why did my body feel so heavy? Can't be. Did someone do this to me? For the time being, I decided to take a look around. I tried to coax some response from my limbs so I could get up. My legs were unsteady and I swayed dangerously as I tried to stand and failed. As slowly as melting butter, I slid powerlessly back into the floor. Oh, couldn't move in the slightest after that. All the muscles in my body felt flaccid, and when I tried to call out for help, my tongue got tangled up in itself and I couldn't speak a word. I collapsed on my back. I stared at the ceiling. It was shrinking further and further into the distance until it was no longer than a grain of rice. The room had stretched itself into a gigantic tower, high enough to brush the heavens. I was trapped at the far end of an ever-lengthening corridor. Just what had happened to my body? Even when faced with such a wondrous vision, my consciousness still had a comparatively strong grip on reality. It was a rather eerie feeling. If the inside of my mind was so clear, then why couldn't my body move? Why was I seeing these visions? I tried to analyze the situation calmly. First of all, aside from the wound on my arm from 3 days ago, I wasn't in any pain. It didn't look like I'd been hit or strangled, nor was I bleeding profusely. I just felt a sensation of nausea coming from my stomach. My throat was numb and stinging. What had Cocoro drunk or been forced to drink? Since this was a medical facility, it wouldn't be odd for drugs like hallucinogenic properties to be stored here. But why? Anyway, I can't do anything unless I can't get my body to move. I can get my body to move. If I just lay here on the floor like a rubber doll, I'd never find out what happened. But even with that said, what am I supposed to do? For now, should I try throwing up the contents of my stomach? The absence of pain was very likely an indicator that my current condition could be fatal. Oh, no, actually, don't you mean it could be lethal? I'm kidding. It's good that I managed to... Damn it. It's good that I managed to work that out. But it's almost impossible to vomit while laying up. And... if I wasn't... my nose is really playing up, I'm sorry. And if I wasn't even capable of lifting my arm a few millimeters to stick my finger down my throat, nothing could be done. My breathing was laboured, but I was able to inhale and exhale. My mouth was full of saliva. Probably because my throat was paralysed, I couldn't swallow or spit it out. It overflowed from the corner of my mouth and ran along my cheek. I must look so pathetic right now. At the thought, a warm tear fell from the corner of my eye. It wasn't a fear of frustration. It was just a psychological phenomenon. For the past few minutes from my transfer until now, I'd yet to blink an eye. A beam of light entered my eyes. It was too bright, I was blinded. The multicolored light spun in a rainbow circle like spitting fireworks. The sparks turned into particles of pure white. Fluffy snow came floating down. The endless corridor stretching above me began a shaking, swaying dance. The swarm of white flakes split into 3 whirling spirals and disappeared. From them, 3 snow fairies appeared. The tiny fairies slowly opened and began to flap their shimmering wings. They wore no clothes, but a red mark could be seen on their inner thighs. They began to frolic and play like a child. A foul stench pierced my nostrils and rose to consume me. I saw a series of wondrous scenes paraded before me, and a panoply of chaos, which, while grotesque, held a mysterious radiance within. Thoroughly enchanted, I began to forget myself. Adrift in that thick, stinking, strangely beautiful blackness, I slowly began to feel ecstasy eating away at my body. And still the ceiling soared on further and further. No, it might not be that the ceiling was getting any further away, but me instead. My melting body was swallowed up by the floor, sinking into an infinitely deep chaos, slowly sinking until I was subsumed. Well then.